Cool. All right, guys, we're going to jump right into this. So this is just going to be a really quick crash course style webinar. Nothing long. It should only be a couple minutes. I'm going to zip right through the slides, and then any questions you guys have, write them down, and we'll just chat at the end. I'm happy to stay as long as possible, answer anything you guys have. All right, so let's start from the basics here. What exactly is a mortgage modification? A mortgage mod is when a homeowner has their property and they have a mortgage against it, and they're failing to make their mortgage payments to the bank. So they're falling behind. But unlike a motivated seller that we're all used to, they want to keep the property. They want to stay in their home. Typically, in my experience, it has something to do with it's their primary residence, and they're emotionally attached to it. That's what I see a lot. But for whatever reason, they do not want to sell. They want to hang on and keep their property. So in a mortgage mod, the bank allows them to fill out an application. It's called a request for mortgage assistance, aka an RMA, which I'll show you guys an example of that in a little bit. So what this is, the homeowner fills it out. It has all of their personal information, financial information, and then the bank is going to review it and then decide whether or not they're going to let them stay in their property and reinstate their mortgage. So what the bank is actually looking for is an improvement in the homeowner's income and overall finances. So, okay, you're falling behind on your mortgage. Well, has your income increased? Has your expenses decreased? Maybe you're paying, less rent in your business. Maybe your utilities are down. They're looking for any type of improvement for them to say, yes, we're going to let you reinstate your loan, give you a second chance, and stay in the property. So at the end of the process, which is very, very long, if the mortgage modification actually gets approved by the bank and they're going to let the seller stay in the property, they're going to put them on a 90-day trial period. So they're going to send the homeowner a letter, say, congratulations, we're going to approve your mortgage modification. You have 90 days to pay us on time. We're going to give you 3 months. We're going to be watching you closely. Let's see what you do. And that 90-day trial period is going to be important in a couple more slides you'll see. All right. So again, there's nothing short about this. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the mortgage modification process, but it takes months and months to complete, especially when the homeowner doesn't have an attorney involved or a realtor helping them and they're doing everything themselves. It's just a gruesome process. All right. And then here's an RMA example. You guys can see this, right? Cool. So this is this is from Wells Fargo, and I have this on file just because it's the same as short sales. This is what a typical RMA looks like here. See the borrower information, last 4 digits of the social, mailing address, are they an active military member? Really basic stuff. It's just a shit ton of questions, as you could see. And then right here, they're going to click that they want to keep their property because, again, they want to stay in it. They do not want to sell. Employment information, financial expenses. You guys get the point. And now, along with that, they're going to have to submit supporting financial documents. So it's not just as simple as filling that form out, because that takes a couple minutes. They have to fill that form out. And then along with the form, they have to complete they have to send bank statements, pay stubs, and that's what takes forever. That's what drags the entire process out super, super long. Okay. Now I know we're going to wait to the end, but do you guys have any questions on basically what a mortgage modification is? Nobody? Everybody good? So you have a basic understanding. Okay. So the sad reality is a lot of these applications, I don't have statistics on this, by the way. I don't even know if they put these out. A lot of these mortgage modifications, they get declined. So in the end, after all that work, months and months of work, the homeowner is not able to stay in their property. And in my personal business, there's 3 reasons I see for this. Number one is the most common. There's a lack of financial improvement, right? Their expenses didn't decrease and their income has not increased. Reason number 2 is it got denied once before. So guys, there's a lot of times you're going to talk to a homeowner. They're going to tell you, I don't want to sell. I'm doing a reinstatement with the bank. And then they're actually going to get declined and they don't realize it because they just tried one maybe 30, 60 days before. A lot of time the bank will look at that and they won't even look into their brand new application. They're going to automatically deny it and tell them they have to sell just because they just tried one and it got denied recently. And then common reason number 3 is, as I mentioned before in the definition, whenever a modification gets approved, the process is not over. The bank puts them on a trust period, a 90-day trial modification where they're going to watch them with a magnifying glass, making sure for 3 months in a row, the seller is making their payments on time. A lot of times what happens is the modification gets approved and the monthly payments, believe it or not, this makes no sense to me, but it happens. The seller's new monthly payments the bank gives them actually increases, if you could believe it. So in this case, the seller definitely can't make the payments and they fail the 90-day trial modification and boom, the deal is live. So that happens a lot too. So where's the opportunity with you as realtors and or investors? 99%, by the way, that's a made up statistic. But a shit ton of your competition, most of your competition passes up on these leads. Okay. They're going to get on the phone with the seller. The seller's going to tell them, listen, I'm working it out with the bank. I'm not interested in selling, blah, blah, blah. And then your competition is going to hang up the phone because that's what we're programmed to do. Real estate's a numbers game. Somebody tells you they have 0 interest in selling. We hang up the phone, on to the next lead. Okay. The interesting thing with mods and the amazing opportunity is I'm going to show you guys my system on how to just simply stay on the phone, keep the conversation going. You will be the 1%, probably less than 1%, and you'll end up getting these deals in the long run. Okay. Because again, and I want to drive this point home, a lot of these modifications, they get declined just because they're trying to reinstate their loan. It's unfortunate, but a lot of these homeowners, they're not in a better financial situation they were a month ago or 2 months ago. They're just trying to hang on for dear life. Okay, so that's the opportunity in these for realtors and investors. Now, this isn't something that I'm not, pitching this to you guys, obviously, and this goes without saying, and you guys already know this, but I feel like I just have to mention, I'm not saying abandon all of your lead generation systems you're doing now and just focus on getting modification leads. That would be insane. Obviously, mods are an amazing complement to whatever you guys are doing now. So you're probably cold calling, SMS blast, sending out letters, Google PPC, whatever you're doing, adding mortgage modifications in this financial environment we're coming into now is just a great complement to your lead gen systems. Okay. It's not a get rich quick. It's not like, picking up the phone this afternoon, calling a bunch of pre-foreclosures. You might even get a couple deals immediately from doing that. This is not that. You're setting up a slow, systematic lead generation system. That's all it is. Okay. And the money, the success is in the systematic follow-up that you're going to do. So you're creating a funnel. So did you guys have any questions? Yeah, I know I said wait to the end, but I want to make sure that you guys don't have anything for me yet. Is everybody good? All right, cool. So this is my specific system that I use. I break it down into 3 steps. It's very simple. It's not rocket science, but you have to follow all 3 steps. The first step is simply to keep the conversation going. They're going to tell you flat out, they're going to adamantly tell you they have no interest in selling their property, that they're behind on their mortgage, but they're working it out with the bank. Everything's taken care of. And then they're going to want to get off the phone with you. Step number one is the hardest part. Keep the conversation going after they tell you you're not selling. Once you're able to do that, transition into step number two, which is you want to build rapport, just like you guys typically do. You already know how to do this. Build rapport and get permission to follow up. Build rapport, build trust, and get permission from them to follow up over time during their modification process. And then step number three, I said step number one is the most important. It's probably step number three. You need to set up and execute a follow-up system. I'm going to explain to you when I dive deeper into step number three. This will not work. You will get 0 leads and 0 deals from this if you do not systemize it, because there's no way in hell you're going to remember, because you're going to build a pipeline of these leads. There's no way, if you don't systemize it and automate it, that you're going to remember when and how to follow up with these people. So we're going to dive deeper into each 3 of those steps. I'm just showing you exactly how I do it. All right. Step number 1, they're going to tell you, listen, thanks for the call, but I'm not interested in selling my property. Okay. The most common phrase you will hear. All right. I know this presentation is called mortgage modifications, and technically that's what the process is called. It's a mortgage modification. Very rarely will you be on the phone with a seller and they're going to tell you straight out, listen, thanks for the call, but I'm doing a mortgage modification with the bank. Very rarely are they going to say that. Most likely they're going to say something along the lines of, thank you, but we're working things out with the bank, or we're reinstating our mortgage. The verbiage is going to be a lot more simple than mortgage modification. So you have to know the phrases to listen for. Okay, it's code for a mortgage modification. All right. Now, once you hear that, what I like to do to transition is I like to say, okay, that's great. The last thing you want to do is try to give them a sales pitch and convince them to list their property with you or sell their property to you. You do not want to do that. Wish them luck. You want to do the opposite. This is a really unconventional way to get business, but wish them luck with the mortgage modification and literally do not say a word about selling. Okay, that's how you want to complete step number 1. Ease into it, literally support them in their decision. That's what you want to do. And then that's going to transition you into step number 2, which is building rapport, which you already know how to do. Okay. You find common ground, whatever it is, whatever you're talking about, however you decide to do it, take a passive approach. You do not want to be salesy. You do not want to be pushy. You want to take a very passive tone, laid back, just have a conversation. You're not selling them anything. I cannot stress that. I cannot stress that enough. You're not selling. You're not trying to get the deal on the phone. You are literally supporting them in their mortgage modification process. Okay. Once you have the conversation and it's getting to the end of the call, it's time to get permission for the follow-up. What I like to do, it works almost every time. I jokingly mention how long it takes. And I'm going to give you guys my script in the next one, but typically what I'll say is something along the lines of, listen, I'm sure you already know, you could already see the mortgage mod process. It takes forever. Nothing short about it. If you don't mind, I'm going to drop in every so often just to see how it's coming along. Hey guys, whoever has that beeping, could you mute yourself, please? Thank you. So, like I said, you end the call. Okay, you say, listen, the modification process, it takes forever. I'm sure you already see that. If you don't mind, I'm going to check in with you every so often just to make sure you don't need anything on my end and to see how the process is coming along. That is very, very key. Almost every time. And, I'm not one of these sales gurus that like guarantee stuff. Almost 100% of the time, as long as you built rapport, they're going to say, absolutely, for sure, that's fine. Boom, there's your permission. As long as you weren't too salesy, you will get permission. And then you transition to step number 3. So feel free to screenshot this. I mean, this script, and by the way, guys, I threw this together for you. I don't actually use a script. This is just like the structure of how almost every call goes. Obviously, there's a lot more meat and potatoes, there's conversation, building rapport that goes into it. But, this is the general idea of how your conversation should go. So I'm recording this, but I'll give you guys a second. Take a picture, screenshot it, whatever you need to do. Everybody cool? Yes. All right. All right. Step number 3, set up and execute the follow-up system. Okay. So as I mentioned before, I can't say it enough. Step number 1 and number 2 are completely pointless, and this will not work if you don't systemize and automate, because it's going to get to the point, especially if you guys are like me and you go heavy after pre-foreclosures, you're going to get a ton of people that are trying to reinstate their loan. So before you know it, you're going to have a pipeline of mortgage modification leads that you and your team are constantly touching and following up with. There's no way in hell you'll remember to exactly when to follow up with the lead. You have to systemize it in your CRM. All right. Now, you want to set an automatic follow-up for once every 3 weeks. Right? Write that one down, because that's the meat and potatoes of it. Once every 3 weeks. Now, obviously, it goes without saying, there's some cases where, let's say they're headed to auction and they're panicking and they're like, hey, call me next week because I'm at the end of this modification thing and blah, blah, whatever. Obviously adjust it, but most of the people you talk to, they're going to have their foreclosure auction on hold because they're applying for a modification. So the bank is going to put it on hold, and it's just going to be a long follow-up process. Now, when you touch them once every 3 weeks, you need to call and text. It sounds redundant, but I'm telling you, that is so key, because all you're doing is you're keeping your name and your company's brand at the top of their mind. It's a branding game. Most of the time when you call, they're going to ignore your call. They don't want to talk to you, or they might not even remember talking to you, or they probably don't have your number saved. So it's going to go to voicemail. You need to leave a voicemail, or tell your VA or your team member, your sales guy, leave a voicemail with your first and last name. This is very granular, but it's very, very crucial. Leave your first and last name in the voicemail, and then immediately send a text message with your first and last name and your company name. The whole point of this is so that, mortgage modifications take, let's say it takes 4 months for them to do this. Every 3 weeks, they're going to get used to seeing your first and last name and hearing your first and last name. And then eventually, when it gets to the point when they want to sell, they will sell to you because you're first in mind, and they appreciate that you're checking in with them passively, not asking them to sell. You're not pressuring them. You're just simply checking in to make sure they don't need anything and to see how the process is going. This isn't rocket science. It's very simple, and it works. It's just a lot of people don't do it. These are dead leads for a lot of people. So again, the most important part of this is setting up a follow-up system. Touch them once every 3 weeks, call and text. Just, and listen, the verbiage should just be like, hey, just check. Hey, listen, it's Bob Vieira here, just checking in, seeing how everything's coming along. Super passive and casual. first and last name and your company name in every single voicemail and text. And then, like I said, the mod, if it gets denied, which, it's just the truth. A lot of them get denied. They're going to be almost forced to sell. It's either sell or, go into bankruptcy. A lot of people most people will want to rush and sell, and then boom, you're the guy. It's really that simple. And this works. I do this all the time. I get awesome deals in my business from this. So, this isn't some random thing. Like this is the exact system I do in my business, and it works. And listen, I want to throw the slide in here because at the end of the day, even if you're not going after pre-foreclosures and you're not targeting people, to help them behind on their mortgage, in my personal opinion, with the recession that we're going into, with the economy going, with all the massive job layoffs at these huge companies, the writing's on the wall, guys. You're not going to be able to avoid people who are doing mortgage modifications. So even if you're not going to jump off this call and go, start to call pre-foreclosures, you will see people that are behind on their mortgage who need to do mortgage modifications that you could put in your pipeline for all these reasons I just mentioned that you see on the screen. And that's it. That's all I got for you. If you want to keep in touch with me, all you guys are in the Facebook group anyway, but if you're not following me on YouTube, I just started the channel. It's growing real fast. We're past 1,000 followers. So posting on it every day, lead generation stuff, real estate news. Follow me on there to keep in touch. Now the floor is yours. What questions do you guys have?
Hey, Bob, this is Andy.
Yeah.
How does this interact or compare to all the forbearance talk that, happened over the last 2 years? So as people get approved or don't get approved for forbearance, does this feed into that somehow?
Yes and no. I mean, the forbearance process is a lot different from a modification because when somebody applies for forbearance, it's a lot easier, for them to get. I mean, you could literally in like some states, let's take New York, for example, believe it or not, you could call up a bank, Andy, and just say, hey, I was affected by COVID 3 years ago. And they'll say, okay, we'll give you a forbearance. So they do go hand in hand. And that's actually a really good point because when you talk to a motivated seller that is able to delay their selling process because they're in a forbearance, you could use the same exact process. So that's actually a really good point. They go hand in hand. The difference is, again, a forbearance is almost automatically granted. There's really not much of an application process to it.
Okay.
But that's a really good point because you guys could look out for forbearances too. Whenever you talk to someone who's in a forbearance, follow up with them as well the same way.
Yeah, and are you a way to complement what Andy's asking? Is there a way to look up different states that we might be marketing with and know what, just like you talked about the laws here or how it generally works or the general funnel pool to get a loan mod, is there a way we can be more intelligent about the particular state we're marketing in and look that up and know who had good forbearances and who didn't?
So there's no list to get a mortgage modification, and that's what makes this such an effective lead gen tool because your competition just can't Google mortgage modification list. The bank legally cannot give that information out. So did that answer your question? Is that what you're asking? How do you find?
No, I was asking about the forbearance. I was tying it to that because I knew we couldn't look up those lists for loan mod, but can we look up what certain state, like you mentioned New York, okay?
Yeah.
There are some states that were automatic and some states that might have been more rigid.
Yeah.
Do you know, or how we might be able to see? Each one of us are probably marketing different places.
Gotcha.
So for our own benefit, is there a place that we could go to, a government site that would tell which states might have done different things loose or more stringent with forbearances?
I would say you could just call whoever the local government is. You just literally call the county and then they could give you a rundown I'm not an expert in every single one. What I could tell you from experiencing and doing short sales in multiple markets, the liberal states, the states that are super liberal, are way more lenient when it comes to forbearances. Let's go back to New York. You could still get a COVID related forbearance in New York if you're a homeowner. It's not as easy as it was in the beginning, but it still happens. And then also, if you're a landlord, you still can't evict people for COVID related stuff. So I mean, like those bluer states, if you guys are operating in those, they're, by rule of thumb, are going to be a lot more lenient when it comes to, forbearances for sure. But to get the exact rules and regulations, Ken, call the actual county and they could give you a rundown of everything.
Thank you. I have another question I jotted down.
Yeah. When
these come up, it's based on the scenario when any lead I'm talking to does it. But if I wanted to actually, is there a certain type of lead that you target in your business that you really want to go after these? I was just curious.
Yeah, pre-foreclosures. Whenever I target pre-foreclosures, I just see more and more modifications. I actually see, this probably won't apply to you guys as much. My business is 90% referral based. So a lot of the referrals I get, from people who want to do short sales, just for the fact that doing a modification will help them hang on for dear life longer. A lot of times they'll just take that route just to eat up time. So that's when I see them. But overall, if you guys are going after pre-foreclosure and auction properties, which I highly suggest in this market right now, you're going to see a ton of these, in my opinion. That's how you'll see most of them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You were going to ask something, Andy, before. Do you have another question?
I think it got answered, but basically what I was going to ask is if I was on the phone with someone and they've been approved for some type of forbearance, do you see that? I'd heard that some of it was basically taking missed payments and putting it all the way at the end of their mortgage, kind of adding it to the mortgage. And then I heard some that were just a delay in payment. So are you running across people that maybe had forbearance for 4 to 6 months during COVID, and now they've been able to take that forbearance and they're trying to apply for a loan modification as well, and just trying to extend that timeline before they get into trouble with the bank?
That's a great question. Yes. And it's way more common in judicial foreclosure states.
Okay.
So it's less common in a state like yours, Andy, Texas, because the seller has less recourse because they have way less time.
Yeah.
Bank doesn't have to, you know what I'm saying, take them through it. But in a state like Jersey, that Sean knows all too well, you see a lot of that stuff because sellers know how to play the game and they'll do exactly what you just said.
Okay. Okay, that was it. I just wonder if they try to back those two programs up against each other and stay in the house longer.
No. And what's really clever with a lot of sellers, I have to hand it to them. The sellers do that. The bank doesn't suggest that. The sellers do it back to back. Absolutely. I've seen that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any mortgage mod questions?
I don't think this ties in necessarily, but is there a way to, I know you said there's not a list of these out there, but is there a list of maybe people that are coming off an adjustable rate mortgage that they're going to get thrown into a higher payment? So then 30 days after that, they're asking for a loan modification. Is there any way to track the adjustable rate mortgage people to maybe a modification at all?
I don't know. Okay. I really don't. Adjustable rate to a modification. I don't think so. It's just tough to get data on them. Yeah. Because as I mentioned before, the bank isn't like, if I applied for a mortgage mod, they can't, put that on a list. Bob Vieira just applied, he's applying to reinstate his loan. You know what I'm saying? So it's, you really can't get a list.
Okay. Good enough.
Yeah. If you find something like that, let me know.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Was this helpful, guys? Like, I want to make sure that I'm putting out content. I mean, was this like a little,
No, thank you very much.
something
definitely.
that you could use? I mean, you're not going to see them every day, but I mean, when you do, it's good to be able to capitalize on them.
Yeah, I'm new to short selling, so I thought that was good for me.
All right, John.
Yeah, no, I honestly didn't even think about going after short sales until you sent that to I did your course.
My course, yeah.
But yeah, I think this year is going to be a good year for it.
Yeah, these next couple of years, we're going to see a lot more short sales for sure, especially in cyclical markets, markets that are really, really up and down. But yeah. All right, if you guys don't have any questions, I could shut it down here. You sure nothing else? All right, cool. Guys, thanks for attending, and post in the group what kind of topics you guys want me to talk about. I would imagine a lot of it's lead gen, but if you want me to do like a short sale crash course, how to do short sales, like, the steps, anything like that, let me know in the group, because I want to put content out that's like valuable that you guys will use. So post in the group and let me know.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, guys, later. Have a good one. Thanks for coming.